Last time we spoke, we talked a little San Diego. I know you said it's 90 degrees there. 90 degrees in San Diego, where most people don't have central air, I'm assuming is a complete nightmare out there. So hopefully you have some central air or you're close to the water, so you're getting that breeze. But yeah, that's not fun. It needs to get back to the 70 degrees that the beauty of San Diego
Yeah,
can be for most of the year.
that's right.
So actually, I want to dive in right away because Scott and I were talking about. I actually listened to our podcast again, and Scott and I were talking about it today. And I get in my office. I'm here for about 5 minutes, and my wife calls me about my 6-year-old, and it is perfectly on par with what Scott and I were discussing. And the topic is avoiding failure. And so we main I'm a college soccer coach and you work with college and you work with older people. But I
Mhm.
think the reality is, oh man, if we can get these 6-year-olds, in line a little earlier, we don't have to, fix some of this stuff. But the situation today for my 6-year-old is he's first day of camp. It's like it's a vacation Bible camp. It's a pretty cool camp at their school. And he shows up and his buddies are in a different group. Dude, he's just distraught. And I'm on the phone with my wife, and I'm like, I'm kind of pulling out my Jocko Willick. I go, oh, good. I He's going to struggle today, and he's going to have to handle it. He's going to have to deal with it, and obviously, there's going to be teachers there and stuff, and people are going to be like, it's all right, he's going to help it out. But either way, he's like, I can't wait to call my wife and see how it went, see make sure he's going back tomorrow. So, I mean, it really, I see it all over the place today where a lot of parents are trying to protect, can we get him in that group? And my thought is, I'm glad he's not in that group. I want him to struggle through this thing. He's probably going to, at the end of the day, he's going to find new friends. He's 6 years old. Like they're playing today. Like it should be easy. So let's overcome this. But I feel like a lot of parents are, I need to get him in that class. I'll make a call, and I mean, what are you seeing? Am I on my right trajectory here? I mean, am I thinking the right way here? I mean, what are your thoughts with that situation?
Yeah, well, I think that is really absolutely, we all need, the only way we can grow perseverance is through adversity and setbacks and difficulties, right? So we need those things. And fortunately, life will give it to us, right? So sometimes we might create a little something like in practice, right? Coaches can create some things to kind of create a little more adversity, right? We can go 5-on-3, whatever it may be. But I think that's a healthy way to go, okay, good. Like these are opportunities to do, for him to navigate when something doesn't go his way. And I like to think about that we can't do this in all of life, but we want to be proactive, right? So the good news is now your son's had a day at camp. You can help him be prepared mentally for the next day. So let's say we're 1 o'clock, which life is never like this. We go back like a week and be like, hey, what are some things you're looking forward to about camp? Okay, this, and this. And he might say, oh, I get to be with my friends and me and Joey and this, and this. Okay, great. Say, it is possible you might not be in the group with some of your friends. So what do you think you could do? Well, that would be horrible. I don't want to go. Well, okay, but this might happen. So what could you do? Well, I could maybe make a new friend. And so you can kind of help them proactively be prepared, because what happened to your son is what happens to all of us. He had an expectation. He doesn't really necessarily out loud thinking it, but he's like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with my boys. Then he goes to camp, and it's a negative surprise. When we have a negative surprise, we call it flipping our lid, and we get emotionally hijacked. Now he's flooded with emotion. It feels like the worst day ever. It feels like camp is going to be horrible. It feels like he's going to be isolated, bored. It's going to be the worst day, the worst experience, and he's got the whole rest of the camp to go. So his brain goes into this threat mode and he's overwhelmed, right? So if he knows like, hey, this is a possibility, what's your plan to deal with it? Then when it happens, he's still going to be disappointed and frustrated, and maybe even might be saying the night before, I don't want to go to camp. But you talk it through and say, here's some strategies to help you, right? Have you ever gone somewhere where you didn't know somebody? Of course, you go to birthday parties, you go places, and you make those connections. And you can also say, and do you think you're still going to get to see your friends? When might you see them, right? So you try to help him just have that plan, be mentally prepared. Then he's got a plan to deal with it. Because as we talked about last time, that Navy SEAL motto I really like is, we don't rise to the occasion, we sink to our level of training. So if we don't have that ability and skills to go, wait a minute, I've gone many places where I thought it was going to be this way, but then it turns out this way socially, but I've got a plan to adapt, we manage it better. We just often think, well, just figure it out, just deal with it. And again, there are good things about figuring things out, right? Kids, especially your son's age, play is huge, navigating social situations. We can't predict everything, but we can predict some of the big things. So even for the next day, you and your wife could be like, okay, hey, tell us, like, what was, 5 things that were okay about being at camp today, right? And see, they come up with 5 things that are okay. There might be 20 that stunk, but 5 things are okay. And go, okay, yeah. And say, what do you think something you can do? What's 2 things you can do tomorrow to help you enjoy it more? Okay, right? And so you try to get him thinking in the way of what can be helpful to him, beneficial, because we talked about last time, our brain's wired to go negative. 80% of daily thoughts negative, 4 negative thoughts to every 1 positive thought. So that's what his brain's going to be pumping today. His brain's predicting 4 ways he's going to be miserable for every 1 way he's going to have fun. But you can help him by getting his thinking brain online and thinking more accurately with the facts. So why we're talking about this on this podcast too is this applies to all kinds of things. Your college players, right? It's like, hey, you're going to have an injury. This is likely to happen during the season. What's your plan to manage? So we kind of talked about last time, right? It's like predicting some of these things, not in like a catastrophic negative way, but then what's your plan going to be? If we can get people mentally prepared, that's why pros bounce back. They are mentally prepared for the adversity. They know they're going to miss the sitter. They know they're going to miss the PK. They know they're going to make a poor pass. They know they might get beaten, that they get scored. The goalie might make a poor, it's poor spacing and he gets beat on the near post, right? If you know these things, but like I'm mentally prepared to bounce back, then we can adjust better.
Yeah, and I think that's all excellent stuff. And you brought up Navy SEALs. We are working with college and professional athletes, and I just brought up my 6-year-old, and you're talking about a spectrum there, right? I mean, my son, I don't think can make it through buds with Navy SEALs today. He's gonna have a hard time. Yeah, he can spell it probably, but that's about it. So basically, my next, this is the big one for me, and I don't know if you want to put like a coach hat on, or maybe give an example to these kids that might be watching this. Oh, this is what a coach is thinking. So I need guys on the field that are split second thinkers. You played the game. When do you have time on a soccer field? So like, oh, I gotta take a break here for a second and get everything going again. Like, I love football as much as anybody. You've got to play. You got a break. You got a second to like, all right, well, we're not in the 2-minute drill. I can maybe step off, get myself right, and hop back into the next play. In soccer, there aren't plays. I mean, you got corner kicks and stuff, but it's not the same. It's constant thinking. And here's the reality. If you need that on the field, I'm not going to play. And that sounds terrible to say, but I need a guy who, I just watched Top Gun the other day. And the big theme was, don't think, just do. And I want that. So I love all the advice you're getting. Let's jump into advice. We're on the field. You just crap the ball away 6 times. Like, all right, let's go to 3 because I might have yanked you earlier. So let's go. You just gave the ball away 3 or 4 times. It's not going well, but we're playing, dude. I can't take you off. Like, like what are you telling that kid? Obviously, he's been doing all the prep work you're talking about, the breathe work, all of it. What about I'm in the middle of it right now? What can I do without letting it turn into 12 and the coach is yanking me off the field?
Yeah, so I'll say a couple of things real quick. Is that one, right? You as the coach and the player put in the work to know what to do, right? That's obviously the first step, right? So that we're assuming the players gotten the training, the technical, tactical training, they understand sort of like what they need to do. Okay, they've got that part down. Okay. So now what we need is really optimal performance comes from when we are and fully engaged in the present moment. And obviously we're at a high level of skill. That's when we have that optimal performance. So that part of being fully engaged in the present moment, it's hard, right? Our brain's always nexting, jumping ahead, what's going to happen. And it's always reviewing the past, what went badly, all those different things, right? So getting them back in the present moment, that's what's required, right? You make a poor pass. How do you get back in the present moment, shake it off, and you're here? So a very quick way is you can kind of like, we need to have a plan. Like we talked about that proactive, those triple P's, predict challenges, have a plan, and then practice it over and over again. So then your brain is more likely to respond, right? What you want players to do is respond and not react, right? What gets in the way of reacting? It's when our mind gets muddy and murky and we get stuck more on the mistake, the negativity, the fear that coach has got somebody warming up. They're going to take me out. My teammates hate me. My season's going to be a disaster. Those are the things that get in the way. When our mind's more calm and clear, we're like, that sucks, next play, right? So how do we get players to do that? It's very being the proactive. So you're kind of saying, Justin, assuming they've done all those things, right? They put in the time, the work, they've
Yep.
used that in practice over and over and over again. So it becomes more of sort of a response rather than a reaction, right? That's what we want on the mental side. So if they're training, how do they manage those setbacks in training when they're working one-on-one with someone, when they're doing like practice? If they've been using those skills about how I just say next play, having a mantra that does it. I've already primed my brain. I know it's coming, Brad. You're going to make 2 or 3 poor passes today. You get stuck and it lowers your game because it'll take you out at some point. Let's be prepared. So I go through practice. When I make a poor pass, I just have so a quick reset is what we need. We need a quick reset. So sometimes you make a poor pass. If I've trained my brain to go, this is what I can expect. This is what you're going to do, Brad. You're going to make some mistakes. You'll also do some things really well. You're also going to do some things really helpful. You're going to win some tackles. You're going to win some headers. You're going to go forward. You're going to help, on the counterattack. So if I train my brain, this is what's expected. Then when it happens, I'm like, this sucks, but I knew it was coming. And then I can go on to the next play. So we need to know it's coming, right? I need to know I'm not going to be perfect, and I need to have a plan. I'll practice it over and over. That's going to help. So Justin, what it really is, it's being proactive, right? It's these players are practicing these skills over and over and over again. So in the moment, they're more likely to work. If I only wait until game day, and now I'm like, wait, what's that thing I'm supposed to do to make a mistake? I'll tell myself next play. Okay, it's not going to work. So I'm going to get hijacked probably and get overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say. It's being very proactive in the moment, right? We can go next play, right? That's a quick way to do that, right? To reset. And so having a mantra of like recover, recover, recover. If you lose the ball, have that in my template. When I lose the ball, when I make a poor pass, recover, 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 and I'm gonna get back behind the ball. So I visualize this. I see myself doing it before the game. Now I'm in the game. I've trained my brain. I've done this in practice. So when I lose the ball, I'm like recover, recover, recover. It's almost like what I do, right? If I haven't trained my brain, my emotions are going to take over, and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh no, oh no, oh no, and I'm not going to be as quick to respond. So we've got to build in this mental programming of what we're going to do it over and over again, just like having a good first touch, right? You do it over and over and over and over and over again. So in the game, it's just what you do. We can do that on the mental side, but it takes a lot of consistency and a lot of reps. So if a player has been hijacked and they've had all this training, but it didn't work in that moment, right? They're overwhelmed. Then that ability to go, next play, right? Or having a mantra like, I help my team, I help my team. A quick mantra is a great way to reset. A breath in, a breath out is a really good way to reset. It's not going to eliminate the stress and get rid of all those things. It's going to bring them a little bit more clear, a little more in the present moment. And then if they've had the training, now they can tap into their training. Like under stress, our toolbox shrinks. We still have it, but it shrinks. It feels like we've got like almost nothing. So we need something to bring us back to our toolbox, right? Just like that's 6 seconds. Like I can do that. There's a moment where it might be like, okay, the ball goes out of bounds and just I tap my leg, next play, right? That's my reset of going, we're back. But I have to do that over and over and over again. So in a high pressure moment, it's going to work. I can't just wait for that moment. And someone's like, Brad, use your reset. It's not going to kick in as much.
Yeah, we call it flushing the toilet here, and you'll see me. I'll look at the guy, and I'll see he's on like his 3rd or 4th. He's just in training, and it's fine. I'll just look at him. I'll just do this.
I love it.
Sit down.
I love it.
It's all good. This handle's not broken. Just one flush is all you need. You're good to go. It's not going to run. It's interesting. I actually made a phone call this morning. One of my former players, awesome kid. I want to say I brought him up last time. I have in the past. And I'll kind of give you the backstory. He came into the office and he just basically was like, man, I'm having trouble with my mental health. And I'm okay. Talk to me. What's going on? And he kind of beat around the bush a little bit. And I kind of stopped him. And I was like, well, let me ask you some questions. And I said, how's your girlfriend? Oh, great. I love her. Oh, yeah, you love her. Oh, cool. How are the guys? Well, the guys are great. They're my brothers. And, I went through all these things that actually going really well. The kid's got all A's. He's an awesome kid, healthy, family's healthy. Everything was going pretty well. And I was like, okay, so the only thing that's really bugging you is I'm not playing. And he looked right at me. He's like, that's pretty much it. And so anyways, long story short, I called him today. I was like, I checked in on you a little bit. We were in season, so it was a little quick check. But you're graduated, you're done. Let's go back to that. What did you think of that? And this is kind of what he said. Maybe you can say, did you do the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Like that's what I'm mainly worried about here. He said, well, I started with my parents, and that makes sense, right? You trust these people probably. You love them. They care about you the most. But he said that they just patted him on the back, like it's going to be okay, like we're here for you type deal. And he said that never has worked for me. And he said it took him a little while to come to me, but he wanted to get like a blunt reaction. He wanted someone to kind of be like, well, big brother him, if you will.
Uh-huh.
So I appreciated that. I don't think it works across the board. Sky and I talked about this. We don't think that that's a strategy. Oh, well, the next guy comes in, I'll just do that for him as well. But I asked him some questions, and maybe this is something that you find a lot working with your athletes. And I said, tell me something that the coach that I did that like kind of triggered these things, because he mentioned that he found himself always looking towards me to see if I'm watching him, to see if when he did something good or bad, did I notice it? What's my reaction? And I'm like, okay, yeah, that can't be healthy. And what was I watching? Was I giving you like a scowl or something? Did I give you bad body language? Like what happened there? And he just said that all he was mainly focused on was me. And I was like, oh yeah, that's not good. So I've got other things I want to dive into here, just based off of what I've said so far. What are your thoughts? Because I got two or three more things about him, and I don't want to go off on too many tangents.
Yeah. Well, what I really like is that you have a relationship with him, right? He
Right,
trusts you. He's coming in to talk to you. So you guys together have built a relationship of trust, and that's huge, right? And he looks up to you. You're his coach. I looked up to really all my coaches, but especially my college coach, right? You have such an enormous impact. And so he comes to you, he trusts you, and he's struggling, right? And that to me is something you want to really take note of, Justin, right? A player's coming to you who's struggling. And so, and if you guys have further conversations, just like, hey, what helped us build this kind of relationship where you would come to me? Because my unscientific estimation is that probably 2% of male college players go to their coach and say I'm having mental health struggles. Like
right,
they just don't, right? And as we talked about, the word mental health can sometimes feel like it means somebody's like incredibly anxious, incredibly depressed, debilitated, can't function. But mental health is on a continuum. So people today and Gen Z kind of college age kids and youth, they will discuss mental health like we might discuss like an injury. You know what I mean? Like, oh, like my ankle's kind of sore or it's whatever. So I think that term mental health sometimes makes it feel like, oh my gosh, it's huge, but it just depends. But I like what you did what you really did is that you steered his mind towards gratitude, right? And one of the best ways for us, if we're in a state of gratitude, we can't be in a state of anxiety. So what you did is you were like, well, hey, tell me how your parents doing. How's your girlfriend? How the boys? How's the team? And what you did is you highlighted things that he feels good about, right? That he is grateful for because our brain's so wired to go negative. If we don't intentionally notice the things that are good in our life, our brain doesn't really see them a lot. So you started off, you got him focusing on gratitude, which helped him settle, got him in thinking brain because whenever you ask a person a question, they go more from emotional brain to thinking brain, right? And that's what we're trying to get him in thinking brain. And that's what you did. You asked him questions, and then he could connect to that gratitude. You went through the things. There's a lot of good things in his life, and then you said like, "Hey, I think it's about your playing time," right? And that clicked for him.
yeah,
So you did such a nice job of you read him. You didn't go, "I know exactly what this is," right? You took your time. You went through things and you checked in, and then you said, "I think it's this," and he was like, "Yeah." So, and you're right. Does that work for everybody? Not necessarily, but everything is, it's using the relationship as key, right? If you have a player who's maybe a freshman, you don't know quite as well and those types of things, that might be a different discussion, but you know this kid better. So I think what you did was great. And I think I mentioned this last time too, just to highlight the fact that he came and talked to you and shared that is huge. Like you want to go, what am I doing that's helping that player be open to doing that? And how can I keep creating that? Because that's what we want. right? The labels of whatever it is, but it's like you want someone just to talk to you and connect and go, hey, like this is bothering me. And then you can help them, guide them towards some solutions. And sometimes like this, it's like you kind of ask a question, you kind of guide them, they go, yep, okay, and they're better, right? Sometimes it's going to be something deeper and bigger, and they just go, I'm going to put a finger on it, coach. Things are going well, but I'm in my head a lot, and I'm not sleeping well. I'm overwhelmed. I just don't understand what's happening. I just feel like I'm not myself, right? Then that's like, okay, that would be a place to refer them to go and talk to someone who can give them some skills, right? We're trying to give them skills and strategies, just like you do on the technical, tactical, and physical side. That's one thing on the mental side. Who can give you skills? If you can give them, great. If not, where can they go to get them? So then they can be in a better place to feel better, but perform better as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that he felt comfortable enough to come to me. They trust me. I got to be honest with you. I think that it was our relationship in terms of the trust meter. It really was after that. Like I think that because of the conversation. So if that's great, but almost all of my guys aren't doing that. I've had guys come in and say, "I will never come talk to you about this." Like,
yeah,
you're the coach, and I just made it clear that if you're having issues, I'm probably not going to play you because I can't have that on my field. It sounds like a terrible thing to say, but I want to win the game. I'll talk to you after the game, but I'm going to win the game first. And so, how do any coach? I want to make sure that these guys aren't just hearing that, hey, you can come into my office whenever you want. My door is always open. And it is. My door is, well, it's closed right now. There's a camp going on out there. It's really loud. But my phone's always on. I've had guys call me at 2 a.m. for, everything. All the things you can imagine. So how do you prove that without having to go through a mental health situation, fight through coming to talk to me, and then finally doing it to realize, oh, this guy does care about me. Like how does that whole thing look? Your advice towards a coach, but also to the athlete going into the situation, because not everybody's the same, and not everybody's going to react the same to the advice.
Yeah, well, and this is going to depend on what you, maybe other coaches listening, are comfortable with. But you made a really good point is that, and one, I mean, he did have some level of trust for him to share that with you, right? Because there's a bunch of players like, no way, right? And again, that also belongs to him. He had to find the courage of that himself, right? You can't create that for him. You can create a space where he maybe thinks he can talk to you, but he's got to make that choice to push through discomfort and do it. But that you also made a great point. You said that after that, that's where trust comes from. And so a really quick and powerful way to create trust is really through vulnerability. That's how we know that somebody's safe, right? So what I really recommend is coaches leading with vulnerability, right? Coaches like you sharing like, hey, this is what it was like for me. I think this is what it's like as a player, and being like, hey, I went through some struggles, and if there were times you had struggles, but you didn't want to tell your teammates, your coaches, or anybody because you felt like embarrassed or you're weak or soft or someone would judge you or now your playing time's going to like not be what you wanted. If you want a culture, this is an if, right? If you want the culture where they can be more comfortable, they trust you more and talk to you, it's going to come from you showing some vulnerability and saying, so we have supports for you, right? We've got our leadership group. You've got your mentors, right? You have an awesome mentoring program. Those are people, and you can come talk to me. And you just kind of, if you don't want people coming to talk to you about certain things, right, you have to gauge what that is. But what you want them to come talk to you about, you can say, hey, if you're having an issue with playing time, you know what I mean? And this is if, right? But if you do, just say, hey, I know what that's like to not get the playing time you want. I've had that happen in my playing career. So, you want to have a conversation, we can have that conversation. So whatever you want them to be comfortable talking to you about, if you can lead with vulnerability around that, that will start some where they will trust you more. And then word of mouth spreads, right? If somebody talks to you and man, coach actually like was with me, he helped me, he guided me, directed me, then they talk to the teammates and somebody else is like, well, maybe I might do that too. You know what I mean? So those are the things I would recommend to create that place where players are going to have more trust in you. Obviously, things with trust outside of that, right? We obviously, like we do what we say, right? All those kind of things that we know. But vulnerability is a very powerful way to establish trust. And coming from a male coach, if any male coach can be vulnerable in any way around a topic, that makes it more likely players might be more able to, one, not view themselves so negatively when they have those struggles, and two, maybe come and broach you with those things as well. But you kind of have to choose what topics you want them to come to you with and which ones you maybe not as comfortable.
That's interesting you said, because I kind of ended it with this conversation was great. I want you to speak to the team. And I want you to, I'm going to preface it by saying this is a guy that disagreed with me. Thought I should have played him more, which is fine. I've never had an issue with that. And he might have been right. We didn't win the national title, so he might have been right. Fortunately, we'll never know. And I got to live with the results, and so be it. But I asked him to speak to the team, and he's all about it. And, this is all huge stuff. And he actually taught me something today. And I don't know if this is across the board, but maybe you could speak on this. I said, well, what was something that I did as a coach? So this could be great for coaches. What was something I did that really triggered you in the mental health department? And he had, I guess one of the things that I had said, he'll get the ball in certain situations, and this is across the field. And I know it's a uh-oh situation. Don't lose this ball here. We're in trouble. And I'll say, don't lose it. Don't lose it. Don't lose it. And in his mind, he's total freak out mode, which doesn't help the situation at all. And I also do all right, get it back, which is I just thought, I was like, oh, one is a negative. Don't lose it. That's a negative. The other thing is get it back, which immediately follows a negative, but I'm only coaching out loud the positive side of the situation, which is go get it back. I don't care that you just lost it, basically, is what I'm saying. Go get it back. It's okay. Go get it back. Go get it back. I didn't say it's okay. I didn't say I don't care that you lost the ball. It's definitely not okay. But I'm only coaching out the big time things that oh, this is going to encourage me to go. And I'm like, yeah, that's an easy fix. That's something that now I can practice during our training in preseason. I can try to eliminate saying those other things, let the mistakes happen because they are going to happen. But I can really harp on the positive responses mid-game to the negative things, kind of like what we started off this podcast with. So, what are your thoughts there? I mean, am I striking a chord here? Am I speaking the truth?
Yeah, I think that's a great insight. Remember, your players are probably just as and sometimes more motivated not to lose the ball than you as a coach, right?
Right.
So when we know we're all on the same page, that's when, it's sort of like, if you got, like as your son gets older, if he gets really into doing well in homework, right? Then obviously hey, make sure you do well tomorrow on the test. He's like, dude, I'm already so you kind of engage those players. But I like what you said is that, well, one, our brain doesn't process the negative. It's strange, right? So if I say your son's learned to ride a bike, you're like, don't hit the tree. Now your son's brain goes to hitting the tree, right? So instead, it's stay on the sidewalk, right? We want to give people directions of what we want them to do. We don't want to say don't do. So look at an example, right? So Diego Bocanegra, one of our ambassadors, soccer resilience, he talks about coaching his son's U team is 13, and he's like, parents are like, don't dive in, don't dive in, don't dive in, right? He's like, move your feet, move your feet, move your feet. So he goes to the parents and goes, hey, tell the kids, he goes, I'd like you not to say anything, but you're going to say something, move your feet, right? So instead of don't let him get inside, don't let him get inside, keep him outside, right? Telling them what you want them to do, the brain processes that. You're like, right. Okay, right? So even hypothetically, and obviously you don't want to bark everything you can do, but it's maintain possession is more helpful than don't lose it, right? But saying get it back, get it back, get it back. Yeah, that those things help because a player, we make a mistake, right? We're vulnerable to go, uh-oh, like you said. When they hear get it back, that might trigger them to do that, right? So then if you do that more in training and even tell them hey, when you guys make a mistake, your brain's going to often hijack you and you're going to feel overwhelmed and stuck and uh-oh, just awful things. That doesn't help the team, no. Right? So what I need you to do is go get it, right? So I want you to tell yourself, recover. If they want to use that as a mantra, right? And you might say that, or it's get it back, get it back, get it back, right? And you're going to say, I'm going to say this in practice because I want you to start internalizing this for you. Mm-hmm. So when you're in a game, you hear me say, get it back. I'm just reminding you of what you've already priming your brain to do. And if we start doing this in preseason, early in the season, by the time it gets later in the season, it's going to become a response rather than oh, wait, I had to have coach tell me to do that. Does that make sense? So anything you want them. So I think of kind of reverse engineering, right? When they get to the conference championship, when they're going into the playoffs, what do you want them to be able to do on the mental side? All right, how do we start building that? I think that's awesome. If you are thinking that way preseason, a couple of things you really want them to do, and anything you can do, Justin, that allows them to go, you're going to make a mistake. I'm not going to yank you for a mistake, right? What I'm looking for is how do you respond to that? And I want to see that in practice. I'm talking about drills. When you make a mistake in a shooting drill, I'm looking to see how you respond the next time. If we're doing one-on-one defending, when you get beat, I want to see how you respond. That is what I'm looking for, because everybody's going to have a mistake in a game. Everybody. How you respond is key, and we want to be a team that responds well. That's going to be part of our identity. We're going to invest in that. We're going to talk about, you guys talk about each other. And when someone loses the ball, I don't want to be the only one yelling, get it back. I want you talking to your teammates and saying, get it back, get it back. And then when they get it back, you're like, Brad, I love it, man. Way to go, right? Reinforce that, like, way to get back there, way to get back. And even if they don't get, you see them hustling back, being like, hey, Brad, I love the effort. Way to respond. Let's go. And that is huge. Now, I'm not so afraid of the next mistake. Coach already told me, he gave me some good feedback. He loved my response. I was aggressive. I ran back after it. Didn't get the ball back, but I ran after it, helped the team. He just told me that now mistakes don't feel as scary because I'm connecting a mistake with my response and then getting that reinforcement from my coach. And now that's what I'm more invested in. Over time, you can really start to create individuals and teams that see the value of responding. So if you make that a big center point and say, we're going to respond well, that's what I'm looking for. It helps them not fear as much when they get the ball and have less uh-oh moments, and they will also respond better too.
Yeah, he also mentioned, which might be tying in, my conversation about my son earlier. He goes, I've never struggled with this before. And I asked him, I was like, well, just like everybody else on the roster, all college rosters, professional rosters, let me guess, you're one of the best kids on your club team, one of the best kids on your high school team. I mean, when have you ever been told no on the field? I mean, you may have had a tough coach, but you were coached tough while playing because you were one of the best kids. It's just the way it is. And this is such a critical thing for specifically Division III, but Division I's the same because of how quick it is from you show up to, hey, I got to win games. And for my guys, it's like 12 days or something. And so these kids aren't even taking a quiz yet. And I need them to go win me a game so I can make the NCAA tournament at the end of the year and get my bonus. Like they don't see that, and they don't realize it's probably at that point, Brad, it's probably too late. It's too late to start thinking about it now. And, obviously anybody listening to this that's going off to college next year is like, oh crap, well, I don't have a time machine to go back to when I was 12 years old and start working on this stuff. But, you mentioned a lot of great things here, and I really appreciate it. I do have a funny one. Scott and I were chatting about it. Scott, are you good with moving forward?
Yeah.
Brad, do you have anything else on that topic before I bring up this next one's kind of a funny one, but I'd love your opinion on it.
Yeah, no, good.
Okay. So Scott and I asked Scott the question today. I was like, is there anywhere in this world today where a coach like Bobby Knight exists and finds the same success that Bobby Knight had when he was a coach, with obviously the extreme stuff with the throwing the chair across the court and all stuff, but specifically the really, really, really tough, no nonsense type of guy that Bobby Knight was. A lot of coaches were in the 80s and 90s like that, 70s, 80s, 90s. Is there a world like that where that guy can exist today? I don't see it.
I'm going to guess there still are coaches who do that, not maybe in the public eye, right? So if you're maybe a college coach, less likely. But yeah, I think that does go, that's interesting about Bobby Knight is, and we have that. So for people who, so there's sort of two types of mindsets as the psychologist Carol Dweck came up with, growth and fixed mindsets. And I'll give just a brief overview, but I'd highly encourage you to listen to check that out. It's the foundation of mental fitness, mental health, everything. But a fixed mindset is that idea that you kind of have it or you don't. You're either kind of born with the abilities or not. So I'm either athletic or I'm not. I'm artistic or I'm not. I can, play the six or not. And that's that fixed mindset. The growth mindset is like everybody can learn, everybody can grow and improve, but you got to do two things. You got to put consistent effort and use effective strategies. When you put those two together, you can grow. Now, where we cap out, we don't know, but everybody can keep growing and improving. Bobby Knight was a guy who had a growth mindset in practice. He believed everybody could get better, right? And he would help the team. They would instill that mindset. We can improve, we can learn, we can get better in defense, offense, everything. And so that helps players flourish in a growth mindset, because you're not just focused on the outcomes and results, but how can I get better? How can I get better? How can I get better? But when it came to game time, Bobby Knight had a fixed mindset. When Bobby's teams were winning, he was great, he was in it. But when his teams were losing, he would berate his players, put them down, and say they were trash, they were useless. Did lots of really things like putting tampons in lockers and just all these kind of things. And so, because he had a fixed mindset. A growth mindset coach isn't happy about losing, feels the pressure, but tries to figure out why. Right. Why are we losing? What do we not do well? How can we correct it? Where can we improve? What do we need to focus on? When in a growth mindset, when a team does well, the coach doesn't go, well, we're great, season's over, we got it, we're just going to cruise, and goes, no, why did we win today? What did we do well? What helped? What did we do in training that set us up to be able to perform in that game? What do we want to keep doing, and where can we add and build? So the downside of a Bobby Knight approach is that, well, obviously, like putting tampons in lockers and things like that. It's just shaming. Shame isn't a good motivator. It's just not, right? It builds resentment. And when you have a coach in that dynamic who tries to operate based on power, I'm in control, you do what I want, well, then players don't really develop that sense of autonomy and independence where they feel free to express themselves and think of things and be creative and solve it themselves. A type of style of Bobby Knight is he's like, this is how you do it. You don't develop independent thinkers as much, right? And when you put people down and shame berate them, you just get resentment. And people are like, okay, right? And so particularly with Gen Z people now is, there's ups and sides of every generation. Our generation people look at and one before, right? But one of the strengths is they are more expressive, can be more assertive, say what they're okay and not okay with, and they recognize when something is not okay to them, right? So for me, that Bobby Knight, while he can have some benefits, I love discipline. I love being consistent. I love challenging players and pushing them. The way he did things as a coach in practice, if he did that in games, he would have won more games and he wouldn't have had the dynamics he had. But for him, when he lost, he took it personally, right? He personalized it, and then he took it out on his players. And that's on him. He didn't have the emotional, mental regulation to manage that and go, whoa. Okay, I can help them get better, but he took it personal. Like, you did this to me. Like, he'd go into locker rooms and be like, you guys are embarrassing me. We're not having this shit happen again. Excuse my language, right? He would say this stuff like, you're not doing this to me, instead of, hey guys, what are we doing out there? This is what we got to do. And if you need to take people out and put the people in, that's fine. But you talk about how to do the things you want rather than berating people. And that, to me, is the side effect of that Bobby Knight approach. You might have teams that win. He certainly did. But today's players aren't going to go with it as much because they are that they want to have a voice too. But that you don't really create an environment where players want to learn and grow and are okay with making mistakes. In Bobby Knight's environment, you're terrified to make a mistake, right? You lose the ball. You're not just getting pulled out. You're getting berated. You're getting probably halftime belittled. Look at Miller. He's an idiot. Right? Those things don't help people grow and are motivated, right? We want to show them a pathway to get better. So to me, that comes with a bunch of side effects. It can have some benefits, but the side effects, to me, way outweigh the benefits. There's lots of approaches we can do as coaches that give similar benefits without all the side effects. And in the transfer portal today, if you had a Bobby Knight, it spreads like wildfire. You're like, I'm out. They're just not going to do with it. And the thing is, you don't have to use that approach to get the results you want.
Yeah. He's obviously a pretty extreme example. I maybe I have to go through a list of other coaches from that time. What about him? I think it'd be cool if you were able to record us all and then let's dissect it. I think it'd be really good for us. I've got a few more.
Real quick, Justin, if I can, there's a study that was done. They looked at NBA players. It was 67 NBA players from it's like a maybe 10-year span. And I'm sorry, 67 coaches during a 10-year span. And then they looked at these NBA players and they divided the coaches into categories of verbally abusive or not. And so verbally abusive was belittling, shaming. You make a mistake, right? You just put them down, say negative things about them. You suck, you're weak, or Brad doesn't care, Brad's soft. whatever negative comments, like that's how they would try to motivate people. And then other coaches use different ways to motivate people. And what they found is that players who had a coach, even for one season, that verbally abusive style, that they had a lower, I forgot the index used. It's like a performance index they use for NBA players, like their minutes played, whatever. They had significantly lower performance indexes than players who had a non-abusive style. Then they said, well, okay, let's track those players, not just for that year they had that coach, but even after and afterwards, same thing happened, lower performance indicators after that, and they had more technical fouls. So they've kind of done some research to look at that style. And again, there's so many ways. It's like as a parent, I can yell and scream at my kids and tell them they're stupid and that they don't, they don't care and they're just go off on them.
Right.
Or I can have boundaries and limits and rules, right? There's accountability, right? And I can talk to them in a way that motivates them, that says, hey, you made a mistake. Here's your consequence. I know you don't like it. Here's what it is. But I believe you're capable of actually improving and getting better. So here's some things I'm going to suggest we can talk about to help you next time. And if you make the mistake again, the consequence is still the same, but I want to help give you the ways to get better, right? That's how we want to do things as coaches, instead of using the shame and those types of things, because it's really when we lose control. The times that I have talked to my kids in ways I regret, it's when I lose control. It's not when I'm calm and thinking brain, because my thinking brain's like, dude, why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. When I feel like nothing's working, then I'll say things that are hurtful and harmful, right? Because I'm just like, well, I'm just trying whatever it is, right? Then I get my thinking brain online. I'm like, dude, really? And then, go take responsibility. Hey, you still have the same consequence rule, but I'm going to start with, I could have handled that way better. That's on me. I didn't control myself. That's my job. I'm going to work on that. It's not okay to talk to you that way. You still are grounded, but I can handle that better, right? Now there's not that resentful, and that actually builds trust. And I'm also modeling for them what I want them to do, right? And so as coaches, when you model those things, go, hey, guys, I lost my head. I did. Yep. The way I handled that, that's not okay. I'm going to be better. We still need this and this and this. But a lot of times, because wait a minute, I can't do that. I lose my authority. I lose my power. It's the exact opposite. That builds respect. People trust, man. If I ever, my son's youth coach was kind of like a real intense guy, good guy, intense guy. And he needed to work on his anger. And he actually had a practice. He called him in and goes, guys, hey, I want you to know, I'm working on improving my anger. I'm going to get better. And, that's something I'm working on. So I'm going to let you guys know. My son tells me, he's like, Dad, the coolest thing happened in practice. I'm what? He's like, so-and-so said this and this. I'm like, what do you think? He's like, we were like, that's awesome. Right. And that made him want to play more for him. You know what I mean? It made him want to try harder for him. He still struggled with his anger, but they kind of got that he was aware of it. He owned it and he was trying to improve. Again, that vulnerability is a huge way to build a tighter bond.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's how you started the last podcast. Lead with vulnerability.
Geez, you got more?
I got something else. I didn't know if you wanted to. I've hijacked 3/4 of the
No,
the time.
you guys are in that world. This is way more compelling than anything I would have to ask, probably. So,
well, one of the if you're cool with that, Brad, I think that you give a ton of tools here. Obviously, I can go online right now and find. We're going to find this here on the bot, on YouTube, and there's a bunch of things to do, but I feel like we should really talk about what people can just do in their everyday lives, and they don't realize it's a mental health exercise. You just don't realize you're doing it. And 90% of it's just day-to-day stuff. And like we're talking about my 6-year-old earlier, we were just on a vacation and I grabbed the the little popsicle sticks that he's been eating all week. And it's fake, like whatever. I put on like 6 pounds, so I'm not judging here. But I looked at the popsicle sticks. I'm like, none of these are like an ingredient you can go find. Like everything in here has been manufactured in a lab somewhere. Like this can't be, there's a number in this ingredient. That's not a real ingredient. And so I think about your diet, how that is such a direct relation to your mental world. I mean, if you're just eating absolute crap food, good luck. I mean, how are you going to overcome that? And, tying it in with diet, a simple workout, or I saw this guy talking about as soon as you're done with dinner or lunch or any meal, just go walk for 20 minutes. And, he's talking about all the scientific things in your body. It's like all the spikes are gone. Everything's just like, it just neutralizes everything. Your body's now using the ingredients in there. Like, oh, yeah, I got 20 minutes to walk around after I eat. I guess that makes some sense. But then the one that really caught me, I was like, that's such a good thing. And they said that you just need to fill your day with accomplishments. And it's not obviously winning a game is a great accomplishment. Talk about that feeling. Well, you don't play every day. What about like cleaning your room or getting out of the house dressed and ready to go after you brush your teeth and go run an errand? Even if it's just a simple errand, or like you want to go, like I got to go to Costco. My wife gave me a list. I'm so looking forward to crushing that list, filling up the gas tank and going home. That's a win for me. Bringing home a win to the wife, and it's just making sure I pick up some chicken thighs. Like I got to make sure I take care of business. So, I mean, that is, I don't even realize I'm doing it, but it's so good for my mental health. I mean, what is your recommendation there? How do you get people just to, get off the couch, get your butt outside, and you have no idea the wonders you're going to do for yourself?
Yeah, those are all really cool things. If I think about, well, one, at the top of the pyramid for and physical health and mental health, a lot of the things help, each other. So one is sleep,
Yep.
right? If somebody, I heard someone say a while ago, which I love, and said, but if you want to know how someone's feeling, how their mental state is, don't ask them how they're feeling. Go, hey, how's your sleep been going? They go, oh, not good. Well, you can pretty much know where they're at, right? When we don't get enough sleep, this part of our brain, it's the executive function part of our brain, the frontal lobe, that's in charge of lots of things. It's kind of like our personal assistant. It regulates emotion. It helps us manage negative thoughts. It helps us also override negative habits, right? Once we have a habit, it's permanent, but this part of our brain goes, yeah, Brad, you haven't smoked in 10 years. So you don't want to smoke again, so don't do it, and I can override that. But when I'm not getting enough sleep, this part of the brain doesn't work as well, so bad habits come back. Um, bad thought habits, right? If I used to be really hard on myself and say, call myself an idiot when I made a mistake, when I don't get a lot of sleep, I'm going to call myself an idiot way more when I make mistakes than when I'm well rested. Because when I'm well rested, I'll be like, I might start and go, dude, it's not that big a deal, move on, right? I can do that because this part allows me to kind of see it and move on. But when I'm that fatigued, so sleep is number one, right? That's how we can, in performance, oh my gosh, sleep is absolutely number one, right? To help us be thinking clear, calm minded, all those kind of things. So sleep would be one. Exercise, right? We know from all this research that 3 times a week of cardiovascular exercise for 30 minutes is enormously beneficial to mental health. Some of the recent research, right, says that it's even better than therapy. So exercise is huge. So sleep, 8 hours a day, 3 times a week, 30 minutes of cardiovascular exercise are huge. And if we want to, and you talked about those chores. So a cool thing where our brain works, right, is that we like that dopamine. That's why we're all, struggle with phones and all those kind of things. Well, a really simple way is pick 2 things in your day and then pick a time. If you're like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever, pick 2 things, even if they're things you typically do, they go, hey, start the day and go, hey, Brad, you know what you're going to do? Like for today, I go, you're going to take a shower and you're going to brush your teeth before 10 o'clock. And so I did. And even those are things I'm often doing, my brain goes, hey, all right, gives me that hit of dopamine. I kind of feel good. Now I've set the table where I'm kind of like, hey, what's next? And I'm more likely to do things. So when we program ourselves and say, there's 2 things I'm going to do by a certain time that you feel is like reasonable, and you do them, your brain goes, okay, let's go. So it's doing the things on our list that builds confidence. With the dopamine hit, that's reinforcing, right? And it makes us think like, I can do more. Hey, I'll go run that errand, and we want to do more. On the mental side of the key to really mental fitness, mental health is the ability to tolerate discomfort. We are hardwired to avoid it, right? We talked about, I'll go back briefly, our brain's hardwiring comes from thousands of years ago. We lived in caves, saber-tooth tigers, and as soon as we left the cave, we had a small chance of survival. Our brain had to be exceptionally good at predicting danger in the future, seeing it in the present, even when things are good. That's why with your player, even though things are good for him, his brain's like, but my playing time is taking over everything, right? And then we also have to be really good at remembering negative things from the past so we don't forget them to go back in harm's way. Obviously today, no saber-tooth tigers, but our brain is still hardwired the same factory installed to have 4 negative thoughts to every 1 positive thought. Now, through mental fitness training, we can change that, right? But that's what we're up against if we don't work on anything. And that's why we can all have more vulnerability to struggling with depression, anxiety, and those things because of how our brain's wired. So the ability to tolerate discomfort is crucial because the brain's number one solution to survival was avoid. Like, we're all hungry, we're skin and bones, let's take the cave. Brain's like, yeah, but you die. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. And then we're like, well, I'm going anyway. Then it would inject us with just horrid fear and dread. Okay, we wouldn't do it, right? So that's the brain's number one solution for everything. It's like camp, I'm not going to go. Whatever, I'm going to work out, it's hot, I'm not going to do it, right? Our brain's just almost that number one response is don't do it. And that's sort of an old strategy trying to get us to avoid not only physical danger, but also emotional discomfort. It doesn't want me to feel embarrassed, frustrated, uncomfortable. Well, most things in life we're going to attempt to do have the possibility of discomfort. Even going to Vaughn's grocery store and Costco and getting some food, I could feel uncomfortable. It's long lines, it's hot, I forget something, whatever. So if we can tell ourselves minimum one time a day, I am going to do something I'm uncomfortable with, right? Not something like highly dangerous, but something I'm uncomfortable with. And if we literally start a journal once a day, and the way I'd like to frame it is this. So do you guys know have you heard about what buffaloes and cows do in storms? Okay, this is super cool. This is not mine, by the way. This is someone else identified this, but I love it. We use this with a ton of teams we work with, and professional athletes, youth players. It's awesome. So when there's a storm, cows instinctively run away from the storm. They run. They're stressed, they're fat, they're overwhelmed, they're just terrified of getting the storm. And they're running, they're stressed, they're exhausted. Well, when the storm eventually catches them, they suffer longer than the storm longer, and they're exhausted. Buffaloes, in contrast, they instinctively run towards the storm. Now, the downside for buffaloes is they have to deal with the storm a lot earlier than the cows. But the upside is they get through it quicker. So our challenge is for all the players listening, coaches, parents, everybody listening, your challenge, my challenge daily is to say once a day, I'm going to be a buffalo. And being a buffalo has nothing to do with results, has nothing to do with goals, wins, outcomes, shutouts, grades on tests, anything. Being a buffalo has everything to do with taking on a challenge, pushing through discomfort. So if every day, and the truth is we do this once a day, but if we are intentional and we recognize and go, I'm going to be a buffalo today, I'm going to be a buffalo today. What's my buffalo? And a cool thing, put a buffalo screensaver on your phone. Get a picture of a buffalo. Some teams will put like a picture like a buffalo in the locker room or something, right? And what you tell them is, we're going to be a team of buffaloes this year. We're going to be a team of buffaloes. We're going to take on the challenge, right? Because when we focus on results and outcomes, our brain goes into threat mode because we can't control them. I can't control if I score a goal today. My teammates got to give me the ball. The lines person can't call me off sides when I'm not, right? The keeper might make a great save. I can't control outcomes, but I can control effort, attitude, preparation, and getting myself technically, tactically, and physically ready to go. So if we can be buffaloes and say, I'm going to go towards the storm, right? Doing uncomfortable things. That means in practice, someone's like, I'm going to take someone on one-on-one. Yeah, I'm not very good at it. It doesn't usually work out well, but you know what? That's the way I can get better. So if we do this once a day outside of soccer, so I'm getting a little talking about outside of soccer, once a day and write down, I was a buffalo today, and this is an awesome thing as a family. So Justin, something to do with your family is you go, hey, every night, we're going to get together and we're going to share one way we were a buffalo today. And again, buffalo has nothing to do with how well it went. It could be like I had a spelling test and I was really uncomfortable and I was scared I was going to do bad. And you know what? I did it anyway. Awesome. Way to be a buffalo. Good job. There's this conversation I need to have with one of my players and I was kind of nervous, but I did it. And I'm really glad that, whatever, even if it didn't go well, but I did it. Okay, great. Being a buffalo. And if everybody shares that in a family, this now becomes part of the family culture. And what that happens is over time, that's how we help people fear mistakes less, because I'm training my brain to go, it's not about if it works out or not, it's about taking on the challenge. Now, I know as a college coach, wins and results matter, right? They do. But the key is if we focus on the other things, those follow, right? We don't chase wins. We don't chase those things. We put in the work to get us in situations where we're more likely to get them. And that's how we get the wins. So if we can change the mindset where be a buffalo, so this with a bunch of people, and they're like, I was a buffalo today doing this. We can do it on the field. We can do it off the field. And that is key. Pushing through discomfort is key. When we do presentations with teams and go, hey, your brain's telling you, I'm not going to volunteer. I'm going to feel weird. People are going to judge me. Who's going to be the first buffalo? And some kid will be like, or some college player's like, hey, yeah, I struggled with this my freshman year. Way to be a buffalo, Ryan. Good job, Ryan. Way to lead. I love that. Look at the leadership right there. And so you can use that with your team, right? If there's certain, whatever it is, But if you notice them trying something they're uncomfortable with and they're working on it, you want to reinforce that, right? If I struggle with my left foot and sitting and crossing my left foot, and I'm worried that coach is going to judge me, and I keep cutting it back and sitting with my right, when I try my left, even if I shank it and the coach goes, Brad, way to be a buffalo. I love it. You're challenging yourself. Let's go. Let's work on how to help you get better, right? So if we do that, now we're creating a culture where the focus is on challenging yourself, challenging yourself, challenging yourself. We fear mistakes less and less. And if we're challenging ourselves, guess what obviously happens? We get better, right? Because we shy away from things that are hard. If we go towards the things that are hard, this is a cool thing you could tell your son for going to camp. Be a buffalo today. Be a buffalo, right? He's going to camp when he's maybe uncomfortable. I'm not going to know people and stuff, right? So acknowledging what is, and if you even tell them, our brain just makes us focus on that. Let's focus on the things that you can do that you're going to enjoy. And if you go to camp and you meet, hey, go and make one friend. You're being a buffalo. Tell me how it goes, right? Now we're changing that, and that's a huge thing for our mental health. Doesn't take a lot, but just focus on that, journal it once a day or talk about it. And that is huge because we are programmed to avoid anything that's potentially uncomfortable, which is honestly about everything.
Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome.
That. Yeah, that's good.
I guess it's good that it's not the cows that run towards the storm and the buffaloes that shy away. Because, I mean, cows aren't like fearsome animals like buffaloes. So it worked out. Yeah. Geez, you having that conversation this evening about being a buffalo? That was great.
I just YouTube cow buffalo storm. I don't know if you saw my hands kind of get out, so I can go try to find a little video on that and you maybe get some video evidence of this because I have a Zoom with my guys next Sunday or Monday. I don't know, it's coming up, and it's mainly just to update them on stuff going on in the summer. But I want to throw a few curveballs at them, and I don't know if I got a good video, and maybe I'll just put what you just said to us. Maybe that'll be what I post. But no, that's good stuff. I think you're right, though, Scott. If that was the cow, I don't know if the motivation will work. Go be a cow today. Yeah, I don't know if that would work as well.
This is Elsie the cow, that kind of thing. So,
right.
Yeah. Thanks, Mother Nature. Yeah. So, Brad, you got to get out of here, right? Okay. Until next time. That was fantastic.
Yeah, let's do this.
Thank you very much. So.
Yeah, well, thank you guys, and like I said, those awesome questions you're asking, and Justin, keep asking those questions to me, to other people, right? I mean, that's how we learn and grow, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. There's so many things, and I just think as far as the medical side, we're going to learn so many more things as we really rapidly have every 5-10 years. And some of these conversations, if we went back, we'd be like, why do we think back? Right. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to have these new types of things. And the fact that you are investing in this and curious about it, I hope other coaches are inspired by it. And they want to do that too. Right. Yeah. Because again, it doesn't have to be super complicated, but some of these simple ways are enormously powerful. Right. So you coming on and saying, I'm trying to learn this, I'm putting this into practice and doing those things, that's inspiring other coaches to think about it. Right. And if you don't know where, right, go find resources. Certainly soccerresilience.com. We have a ton of resources available for teams and players that can really make an impact, but find that information out. We have a Soccer Resilience YouTube channel. It's got a ton of videos, like 300 plus videos for parents, coaches, and players. Just a lot of resources, right? Our Instagram has a ton of short videos. You can watch pros talk about like 45 seconds here, a minute here, that are awesome, talking about all kinds of things, being cut from ODP as a youth player, not starting, not traveling, being a pro and having injury, just all these things. The more we hear, especially pros talk about it, it just resonates and hits differently for players. It really, really does. So there's so many resources available. Use them, and that's how we can start to make a continual impact and difference too.
That's great.
Well said. All right. Thank you, Brad.
You got it, guys. Always a pleasure. Look forward to next time too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.